The coveted grand final on the cards very shortly as Gambit are taking on Na'Vi in the final game of 2021. But before we delve into that, we've got to delve into our World's Team of the Year. And to do that, it's getting a little bit cozy up here on the desk. We've got Moses, we've got Launders joining us up here. Gentlemen, how you doing?
I like the body heat. I only get scrawny and he has nothing. So
yeah, he is. Lives up to his name.
Yeah.
Talk about Team of the Year right here.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, what roles will we have? Who's in-game leader?
I'll just be the star.
squad?
I could just be the star player.
Yeah.
Leader.
That's
You'd be
a
the
role,
coach.
right?
You'd be the coach. Actually, we have
Yeah, oh, damn.
No, that's okay.
I think we both combined would be the coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe then we could be.
But then we don't
Maybe
have
then we could win some
Three
games or
players.
something.
Well, we do have to get into our World Team of the Year. We've, of course, got 6 categories featuring a load of different players. We've narrowed down to 2, beginning off with Coach, Entry, IGL, Orb, Support, and Lurker. So let's get in to our first category here at the World Team of the Year. Coach is going to be the first one on the cards. You've just seen in the video preceding this, we narrowed down 6 people down to just 2. It's going to be Blade, it's going to be Xtaz. I want to start off with you guys over on my right, because we didn't get to hear from you in this VT preceding this. Any thoughts going into this so far?
I mean, to me, it makes sense, right? You have the major winning coach, a guy who's won pretty much everything with Na'Vi up there. It's hard to not have him in the conversation. It's going to be tough not to pick him as well. And then for Xtaz, I think that's the more experimental coach, you know, the guy implementing the 6-man lineup, the guy getting the most out of Apex and really doing his absolute best to make Vitality a competitive team.
Yeah, I think you put it best. In 2020, Xtaz had a really great argument. After the 6-man lineup thing went so well, the whole team was looking super strong, top 2 team of the year, and he was at the head of it. And you also got the reviews, right? The public player reviews talking about how good he was. But this year, I mean, Blade was good throughout, and Na'Vi won everything.
Yeah, I think it was great. I think it was also, you know, Groove was right on the edge of it because how well Gambit played. But I think X has also had some more challenges, right, this year, introducing, you know, another rookie into the team. And obviously Na'Vi being the more stable lineup, right, and having more success later on. And also how they played. After the rumor changes, they still played really well.
I think that's my big thing for Xtaz being here too, is the fact that the obstacles towards the end of the year, the fact that he kept this team together, got them a trophy at the end of the year, kept them focused. That's very impressive, and because that's like the nebulous work that you do as a coach that you can't always tell the effect in some kind of statistic.
Yeah, well, I think it is time to reveal what we voted for. We've got some big cards to reveal our votes. So on the count of 3, gentlemen, do you want to reveal them?
Yep.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Who we got?
Boom.
Ooh, we have got Blade taking it from the side of Na'Vi. Unfortunately, Jacob...
Did you grab the wrong pile?
It was not a mistake.
These are not predictions.
It was not a
This is
mistake.
not predictions.
Every single one's going to be the wrong answer.
In all fairness, I know all the Na'Vi fanboys are hating me even more so, but I knew that you guys would pick Blade, and I just wanted to give him the credit because I agree with what Jason said right here. I think the circumstances he's been working under has been incredible tough. As well, you said it, you know, late 2020 implementing Nevera. There was also a little bit of that in the beginning of 21 with the World Finals, and again, had it not been for the rules implied by Val, they probably would have continued to experiment with that. So yeah, it's hard not to pick a guy who's won everything. It's hard not to pick Blade, who's won the major with his lineup, but I think Xtaz deserved at least 1 vote to give him the respect he deserves.
Yeah, I think when I was picking mine, the question that was on my lips, I was really tempted to go with Xtaz, but then I was looking at every reason why I was going to give it to Xtaz. Blade has done all of that and won more trophies.
I think the position Na'Vi's in now, like they are hands down like the most dangerous looking team that we have, and I mean the rise. You also talk about the rookies that Xtaz has had to bring up. I mean, the rise of Na'Vi also coincided with Perfecto finding his footing within the team, with Bit exploding out of nowhere. So the development of that young talent as well is just mental.
Yeah, and also talking about building Apex into an in-game leader. Well, Boomage, the same thing. So I think Freya put it best. Like, he did everything Xtaz did and then some, and that's why, you know, I think it's a no-brainer. Even
the innovation coming out of Blade, like we see the Na'Vi players now sitting with all sorts of papers, you know, and it's like strictly highlighted. I've even seen some of it, don't understand any Russian or Ukrainian at all, but there's like paragraphs of amount of text right there. So he's also innovating. You've never seen Simple sit and read a novel, you know, before going into a game. So it's good to see Blade is also staying on top of his game.
Well, so Blade does take the winner of the Coach of the Year in our World Team of the Year, and definitely a very well-deserved placing for him. Just looking at, as you were saying, you know, the amount of accolades he has as a coach, the amount of notes he comes in with, and the fact that he is never content as a man. We even heard it after the major grand final. They won literally flawlessly. Not content with how they won out Nuke though.
Yeah, oh, these T sides, oh, these CT sides. He's always got something to say, no matter how good they are, and that's what it takes to be a champion. And I think that's why he's proved that he's done so much. I've even heard all the way down to the Academy League that Blade has had something to do with picking and developing talent.
Yeah, a man of few words though, but key words, it's safe to say. And you know, he's not one of those guys who's gonna yell behind the team or be like the hype guy, but he instills a culture within the team through just hard work, right, and like having the same attitude, everyone being on the same page, and you know there's multiple ways to do it and create a healthy culture within the team.
And he might get to grab one more trophy because they're in the grand final here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this could be wild. I mean, that would just cement things in two. I mean, not to get too deep into the grand final, but Na'Vi versus Gambit, like that's such a cool matchup to have, considering how this year has gone and how those two teams have been essentially Gambit, the best team in the world for the first half, Na'Vi, the best team in the world for the second half, and now we get like one final decider.
Well, Blade's taking the win in our first category of Coach of the Year. Now it's time to get into our second. In-game leader. This is a very interesting one indeed, looking at the trajectory of some of these teams. We've narrowed it down to just two. Again, Na'Vi versus Vitality. Boomage on the left, Vitality on the right.
Yeah, I think this one is super difficult to kind of pinpoint at the end. I think this will be one of the closest ones because you cannot not put Boomage there because of, again, the tournaments that they've won, right? And Apex on the other side, just having to deal with, you know, another rookie and bringing him into the team and whatnot. You know, there was a lot of challenges for them, and I think he has risen up to the challenge and also played well individually on top of all of that.
I agree. A lot of the same arguments, you know, in terms of the coaching goes into to be applied here as well. Boomage has won everything and has also involved as a player. I think he came into Na'Vi and he was a guy that in the beginning I felt was a little bit too eager to find impact. He was sometimes, you know, being caught off guard. Sometimes I even felt he was a liability. But I think this year he's been a perfect example of what everything Na'Vi needs on the server. Also a guy that is not afraid to make the right call at the right moment. He's not afraid to be aggressive on the server as well. Whereas for Apex, I mean, all we discussed when it comes to Extras in terms of having hard work conditions, you know, in and out of the lineup, having a period where he mentally had to reset as well during the year. I think that deserves some credit.
I think Apex is probably actually the second best player on Vitality, and he was really important in a lot of their big matches this year. I think him and Shocks are actually the reason that Zywoo was able to have the stats that they did at the major because of their early game performances. And I feel like Apex has a lot of strong... I'm not trying to spoil anything here, but I just think Apex, on top of being a really strong IGL, out of 2020 into 2021, is also a much better player.
Yeah, maybe we should announce who we voted for. So, gentlemen, cards at the ready. 3, 2, 1. Reveal yourselves. Oh. It is going to be going with Apex. Oh, a Boomage vote in here as well.
The wrong
Pimp
stack.
just wanting to cause chaos. But,
the wrong stack.
I think Apex...
he thought he had more friends on this one.
Apex definitely a well-deserved victory yet again, and especially after seeing that incredibly emotional interview that we just saw from him, man, speaking to Banks and saying you could just see how much this entire Vitality project has meant to him over the years.
Listen up, I respect everything Apex has done, and I think recently,
Why do you hate Vitality so
recently
much?
he's been a good in-game leader, and especially on the server, he's raced to be the second best player of Vitality. But the beginning of the year wasn't good for Apex. I felt watching like the first 3, 4, 5 months of Vitality playing, he was a liability on the server. He was straight up a liability individually, playing not at a high level, and he's a guy that likes to be involved in the games all the time. So when he's individually not on pair, he will be a liability. That hasn't been the case at all the last 6, 7, 8 months. So I'll give you that. But I think Boomage is a guy that has involved a lot. And again, my best argument for picking Boomage here, imagine having to control Simple, Electronic, and Bit on the same team. That requires some personality.
You don't. Yeah. He doesn't do it. And for me, that was the argument, though, right? Like, I think I really think it's coach plus in-game leader, right? That determines like your game and whatnot. But I think Apex is also the leader of that team, like a leader of men, right? Like, Zywoo is the best player, Zywoo is the star player, but Apex is the captain and the main voice and the leader of that team. And I took that into account when I made my vote, right? For Boomage, yes, he's the in-gamer, he calls the strats at the start of the round, but he's not controlling anyone, like not Simple, not anyone, right? Like, and that's his job, and that's fine. That's why he's still top 2, but you can't be the best, in my eyes, if you're not also have that leadership quality.
Yeah, I think my problem with going with Boomage here, because I thought this was very close, is more like when we talk about the success of Na'Vi, it's not usually focused on Boomage. It's talking about Blade as a coach. It's talking about obviously Simple. It's talking about how good Bit and Perfecto have become throughout this year, and that really marked the rise. That really kind of solidified them. So for me, it just had to go to Apex for that reason. Apex also has one quality as an actual in-game leader that I really enjoy, which is he's one of those in-game leaders that is not afraid to like go off script. When he like feels like he has like momentum in his favor, when he feels like he has his opponents in a position where he can mess with them a little bit with his tactics, he goes for it. And I really admire that as an in-game leader to be like, I sense this weakness. I sense that we have this team in this position, and we can leverage that into just a free, easy round win. And I really like that quality.
Well, I think he's a leader of men. I think, like Bianco said, he literally looks like Napoleon. I mean, this guy, he has the same mannerisms. Like, he does all of that, okay, if that's not proof. Also, how do you explain him living out Cadian's dream and taking down Navi's nuke streak?
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty impressive, but not down to Apex by himself. You know, when you have Cyber in the lineup, it's relatively easy to make stuff like that happen. One thing I do think that made me vote for Boomers as well is his nature of being a human being, very calm and very collective. Whereas Apex, he did have a period. It seems like you guys have forgot the first 3 or 4 months of the year. He went out of the lineup because he couldn't control himself. The emotional game of Apex was too much for him and his teammates to even handle. So he had to take a couple of weeks off, actually, go out mid-tournament in order to get hold of himself. Whether that was personal stuff or whether that was him getting too much into it, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate in. But if you're a leader and if you're supposed to be the guy keeping the team calm and you can't control yourself, I'm sorry, I can't vote for
But isn't that even more testament to him in terms of his development as an in-game leader over the course of this year? The fact that he can recognize that, he's so self-aware.
We're looking at the entire year, not only the last 6 months.
But I'm going, the rise as well. I think that's very important. To be that self-aware as an in-game leader and look and go, actually, yeah,
he also
I do
said he was going to take like 4 months off and then came back a week later. That's a real man right there.
That's leadership.
For me, it's a pro, though, right? Like, because, a lot of people, it's been a tough time for everyone, right? It's been a tough period. And for him to come back really quickly and kind of do what he has done with Vitality, for me, that's a testament to actually his leadership, not a sign of weakness that he, couldn't, keep it up and had to take some time off.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting going into 2022 with these roster changes that we've pretty much had cemented. Know exactly who it's going to be, but looking like a Danish flag or two are going to be added to the side of Vitality. I'm interested to see how he coach with that as well, because that's a really different dynamic. That's
going to be, I think that could be, I mean, if you're Apex, you obviously have to look at that as like a positive of like, okay, this Danish Counter-Strike now, it's like a new theory of Counter-Strike that gets to come in, and if you can find a way to like blend it together, like what he enjoys doing and bringing in some of the elements of what, the Danes like to play, and obviously Coach Zana, if that's going to end up being finalized, then all of a sudden you could create like a really cool meld of different styles that can be very tough to deal with.
That's going to be the real test, though. Like the cultural experience he's going to endure now. Apex, the way he's reacting right now, the way he's hitting the disc, the way he's so emotional, I love to see it as a viewer, and I love to explore that, and feel the energy. But I've also played with dupreeh and played with Magix. If you're doing that with those two players, you see how much they also are animated on the server when they're playing. If you have 3 players like dupreeh, like Magix, and now also your in-game leader being this emotional guy who's constantly, doing all sorts of weird stuff with your body when you're playing. There's too much of that. So can Apex adapt to that? Can he slow down himself, or does it require dupreeh to slow down? I think that's going to be the real test, and maybe I'll be ready to vote for him next year if he can overcome that.
Yeah, well, a lot of questions heading into 2022, but no question that Apex is our World Team of the Year, in-game leader of the year. But now it's time to get into category number 3. Lurker is on the cards next here at the World Team of the Year. Of course, 6 men. We've narrowed them down to 2, Hunter and Hobbit. Any sort of initial thoughts, gentlemen?
Listen, first thing we have to say is, of course, these are both of the guys on Twitter who are like posting their game stats with like most opening kills in a game, right? So like it's hard to really name this category, but we kind of consider it more like, yes, these guys lurk in some rounds, but also they're playing sides of the map, right? They're not in the group. They're kind of left to their own devices, basically, is how we've graded the players.
Yeah, and I mean, you have some cool stuff with both sides, and I think, obviously Hunter, I think being like kind of the second punch, with Nico there, it's obviously been spectacular. From like Hobbit's just been so impressive too. Like he's the veteran of a team that has no experience whatsoever on LAN.
I would agree, and I'm afraid that I picked something differently from you guys. But in this case, I look at the two players.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. I look at these two players and think to myself, they're very solid, right? It's 2 very fundamentally sound players. It's often players, when you watch them play, they don't make too many mistakes. Of course, everyone is failing an aim duel once in a while, but in terms of making crucial mistakes that lead to losing rounds, these guys are very, very solid. And when they're lurking, they often do it in a smart way.
I wasn't sure, so I picked the player that drinks from the Fountain of Youth.
Well, maybe we should reveal our picks for the Lurker of the Year. Just, giving that one up there, Launders. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Who have we got?
I'm afraid.
Oh, wow. We've gone Hobbit across
Oh, man, he's won everything.
He is looking stellar. The Fountain of Youth, definitely, with Daddy Hobbit there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think him as a player, I mean, even going beyond 2021, the fact that his comeback coming into this year, looking so sterling on an era, a major winner on our screens, not with this squad, but with the previous squad.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, I think he's just done such good work. He's been just like feels like the most, like the one really consistent player on that team as they've tried to gain experience and tried to kind of acclimate themselves. And you know, the conversation is always going to be, how long do you have to wait until you see the online Gambit play on LAN? And that's not to say they've like dropped off to any crazy level, but Hobbit has always just been there to make sure, even when things are going bad, like he's always delivering for his team. He is that kind of just that player who's always there.
I may be overreacting a little bit here, but isn't he the guy who's made the best comeback in all time of Counter-Strike in terms of going from winning a major to then being, you know, considered not good enough to play in a Hellraisers team that wasn't even top 20 in the world at the time, to then come back into Gambit Youngsters or whatever they were called, and then take a new team up to where they could potentially win a major. I don't think I've seen a history from anyone do that ever before. So as a player right now, Hobbit deserves a lot of respect, and he's made one of the best comebacks in history of Counter-Strike.
Taco's challenging for that right now. I should say.
True. Yeah,
Not that he's involved in this in any way. I just wanted to bring it up.
Shout out one time to a friend Taco. Yeah.
Hobbit has more hair, so.
Always comes down to hair with you, doesn't it? God bless.
Moving on. Apparently that's what cemented Hobbit this victory for Lurker of the year. But now it's time to move on to our fourth category in our World Team. The support player, the unsung hero of every team. And now we're going to sing their praises. The two left standing, Perfecto and Inters. Some huge performances from both of these players throughout the year.
Where's Sanji?
Yeah, what the hell?
Oh, man.
He gets cut now. Can't even talk about him anymore.
That,
he just doesn't exist.
We did say in the video he's like the support player, like it fits the role perfectly, but doesn't mean he executes it the best, right? And he also wasn't on any team towards the end of the year when we had the most lands.
That's not his fault.
Watch out, Sandy support corner over here. Like.
I know, I see it. But yeah, for these two guys, I think it's obvious, right? In their respective teams, they're in that role. And Perfecto for me stands out because of the clutches, right? Like that's an extra element that he adds. For support, it's like you're usually CT-sided anchor, and T-side, you're ending up also in some of those clutch situations potentially. And yeah, I think he's been great this year.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we just go back to it because the same thing we mentioned with guys like Boomich and guys like Blade earlier. Part of the rise of Na'Vi and to get to this point was guys like Perfecto really stepping in and really cementing themselves as an effective player in that role. So that's super impressive from him. Inters as well. I mean, they've had a great year. Everyone on that Gambit team has done a great job in their positions also to even come from nowhere to become the best team in the world.
Well, let's reveal it before we give any more spoilers. 3, 2, 1, gentlemen, who have we picked? Perfecto with a little Inters push coming in there from Launders.
Excuse my interruption.
Take it away, Launders. Back to you in the studio.
Okay, so first, I think Perfecto, amazing side anchor. I think in terms of watching demos, I've been the most impressed with him, where he's gone very underrated. He also had a solid major. I don't know if I'm talking over this, but overall, they've achieved a lot, but so have Gambit. And I think that the next thing, in terms of players who come to mind right away, right after Sanji, I think, is Inters. He has not gotten a lot of respect this year, and I feel like he has been making the plays to get respect.
I feel like you're the pioneer of the unsung guns, really, coming into Counter-Strike. And I respect you for that, Launders. I respect
so
the hustle.
much.
Everybody else going with Perfecto.
That side of the desk is just handing out like participation trophies over there. We got,
I'll take it.
Just giving Xtaz a little bit of a shout out. We got Launders giving Sanji a shout out. He wasn't even in the list.
No one tells me how awesome I am.
But Perfecto in the list, Perfecto winning this one. I think you kind of nailed it perfectly there, Yanko. Just looking at his progression through the year as well. The fact that he's become so much more proactive as a player and a huge instrumental part of this machine that has become Na'Vi in 2021.
He's just done more than Inters in basically the same position and the same role. There was a game at the major, I don't know if it was Vitality or which game, where he just comes in the quarterfinal and has 30+ kills. Like there's simple bit in electronic on that team, and then Perfecto shows up and has a day, right, and kind of pushes the team over the line. So yeah, he has a couple of games like that, and for me that's why he's number one.
I think it's the progress as well. When he joined Na'Vi to begin with, there was a lot of up and down. You know, he wasn't really that impressive to begin with, I'd say. You know, and then all of a sudden he emerged into be this perfect clutch player, and that was his trademark, right? He was finding his impact. So even when he had 7, 8, 9 kills in a game, he would always have a clutch or two where he found impact. So I think it's the progression as well from Perfecto that gives it to me, the fact that he's elevated and become a much better player the last couple of years. Another thing, again, if you join a team with Simple or if you join a team with Electronic, I think those personalities, it must be so incredibly hard for people from the outside to imagine how hard it is to get into a team and find your space. That's why I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. In the beginning, it must have been tough, but he really has grown into the role and found a lot of impact.
Yeah, huge amount of impact from Na'Vi.
He started the year as de facto, and now he's Support Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at who we've crowned champion so far in our category, just in case you guys have missed out on this crowning ceremony. Blade, Apex, Perfecto, Hobbit. This is shaping up to be an interesting team. I don't know whether it would
I'd
work in
coach
real
this
life.
team.
Yeah? I mean, Blade's coaching this team, so you'd analyze this team, maybe?
Yeah, I'd do demos on them, yeah.
Demo? Yeah.
What do you say, Jason? You got any good advice
I'd
for
farm
Launders?
ad revenue on this team.
Learn to love God, pray.
Well, let's move on to our 5th, our penultimate category as we get into our World Team of the Year. I like this one a lot as the firm member of the whole W religion. It's entry of the year coming in. We've got Yakinda on one side of the equation, Nico on the other, and two people that might be throwing a few punches over this one, Moses and Yanko.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Take it away, Jason.
We'll find out. Yeah.
Make your argument.
No, I mean, look, this is kind of like two different schools of thought. Yekindar is like the stereotypical entry fragger, like the hardcore entry fragger. Really blew up on the scene this year. He was something really spectacular that powered this Virtus Pro team and kept it up through most of the year as well. Obviously developed a very deep playbook on how to get his entries and how to find things. And then, like, what can you say? Like Nico, there's not much more we can say about him that we've said throughout this event.
There's a lot you can say.
He does everything. He's
If you wanted to say it, Jason, for some reason, you just don't want to speak the words. You don't want to say the words.
No, he's yeah, you take Nico.
Yeah, I think I think for me he's the second best player in the world in this year, right? We saw at the major in some of these big lands towards the end just how many impactful kills he gets, the amount of kills he gets, how much he's involved in opening duels, in opening fights, right? I think obviously this as well, it's not to be looked at as entry fragger, you know, just the first guy running in strats, right? It's also a guy who from the sides of the map maybe just takes a lot of initiative, right? Tries to help the team, tries to open up rounds. And I think Nico is the epitome of that.
I think there are levels, and Nico's a better player than Yakinda this year and everything like that. But as the first year for Yakinda, and he's the guy you think of when you think of entries, and he's just farmed Liquid so many times that it's just burned into my memory. So I can't help it. Yeah, unfortunately, he really has.
Be like that.
No, I'm taking the L with you. It's not been fun for either of us. But yeah, Yakinda, I feel like he knows he needs to entry, whereas Nico, I feel like he does it on certain timings and stuff when it makes sense. But it's not in his job description technically. Nico just has to be the best player overall, whereas Yakinda has to be the entry for the team.
But I think that's the modern day of being an entry fragger, right? Back in the days, you used to have guys like Dupree who were a raw entry fragger. Even Electronic used to go for more opening duels. Now that he has Simple next to him and Bit next to him, he's eased a bit off that. So to me, it's like Yakinda is a pure entry fragger and not much else outside of that, and that's why it's hard to put stock into him, because I feel in modern days Counter-Strike, you're not good enough to play at the top level if you can only do one role. You got to be able to do all sorts of different roles, and no one in the world right now is better than Nico in terms of picking up, you know, the secondary AWP, in terms of being an entry fragger, in terms of being able to clutch when need to be. He does it all, and the entry fragging department, which we're discussing right now, is also when he's just elevating the team.
Well, I think we might know who Pimp sided with, so should we reveal our cards, gentlemen? 3, 2, 1, who are we going for? Ooh, Sol Yakinda over there on the right, but Nico.
Jason, yeah, you like that?
Taking a W here. Oh, wow,
Explain
and a
yourself.
switch.
Explain.
No, look, I agree with Yanko. He's the second best player of the year in my mind as well. And I mean, you look at his opening kill stats, I think it's off the charts. It's unbelievable. And look, someone as good as Nico doesn't deserve to have like a semantic argument of what an entry fragger is or isn't. Take it away from him. The guy's spectacular in every facet of the game. And especially just watching what he did here at the Blast World Finals, his performances throughout all their matches, it's like, take it. The award's yours. You can have it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Yanko said he is the second best player of the year, right after Zywoo, but for Yakinda, like this is a funny segment about who's the best in the role. Okay, so let's not get crowded and shrouded with all the arguments about all the other attributes of him.
This is kind of where I was slightly torn, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but I was slightly torn because the fact that Yakinda, that kind of really is his sole role as a player. We're just talking about this role, but then I was discussing it with you, Pimp, and you were saying literally what you just said. The fact that an entry fragger now in Counter-Strike can't really just be that. It's kind of been an evolution of the role, so that's why I went with
It's the same with the lurker role, right? You're not necessarily just a lurker anymore. You're not necessarily just a support player anymore. You have supportive elements in your game. You have rounds or certain maps or certain positions where you're supposed to lurk. But a player nowadays, a modern days Counter-Strike player, gotta be able to do more than just hardcore entry frags. So had Yakinda had a little bit more impact, you know, in the surroundings of his entry fragging, then maybe I would have picked him. But Nico is just straight up the best at the rifle role right now.
Here's my problem: is I don't care how you get the opening kills. Nico's got better stats on opening fights. Like I don't know Like, it doesn't matter how you get him. He's got
a better team. He's got a better team. Okay, Carlos, his team is fine.
By how much, though? Or does he really?
It's like 10%, yeah.
Well, I'm sure if Maui was here, he'd agree with you. I know Maui loves a bit of Yakinda.
Think about all the AKs Yakinda have been dropped by Sanji throughout the entire year. You'd reckon he'd have more impact with that.
That's true. But Nico's always got a dead teammate to pick up a gun from.
Or two.
Well, we're almost ready to round out our World Team of the Year, but not before we get into the final category, and it's a big one. AWP of the Year, and there's only really 2 names that we can be putting into the equation after 2021. Simple and Zoe, yet again, Vitality taking on Na'Vi. I think there is a little bit of discussion to be had around this one, but
not really, no.
I think it favors one side of the equation a little bit more. Thanks, Launders, man.
Stats don't lie.
Ball don't lie.
I was top 2 and not 2, baby. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, Simple, this is his best year on record. What's amazing is it's Nico's best year on record, Zaiwu's best year on record, and Simple's all the same time. But Simple's best is the best of all time for any player in history. So this is a pretty crazy year from him overall. And we could see in this last quarter where a lot of the big events happened, Zaiwu has been consistent throughout all the winter. But that first half of the year, even though he had that 1.30 rating, I think even he said himself he had a bad year at that point. And it was because you watched the games and he got the stats, but he was not the same impactful player, in my opinion.
You know what's the crazy thing for me is like when you look at years past and Device in Astralis, right? And he was always like up there 3-4 in the world, really, really good. And Simple was still #1 and his team was struggling. And now you see his stats when his team is actually doing well. And he doesn't like to it's easier to get good stats when your team is winning, when your team is playing well, obviously. So it's crazy how good he was even in the years prior when they weren't winning, and now he just took it to a completely
There's also
level.
A counter argument for picking Simple in this one. Not saying
Here we go.
doing it right, but but Vitality in the period in 21, they've been struggling a lot, and for Zaiwu, also the type of player he is, he's not as explosive as Simple. I think you described it pretty well, saying that whenever you see Zaiwu, he's always doing the logical thing. He may be the smartest, with the AWP, whereas for Simple, he defines logic in a weird way. He can do whatever, and sometimes he has an answer to a question you haven't even asked. So for Zaiwu to play so well and having the best year and stats-wise in a year where Vitality haven't played well, where they've been struggling, where there's been roster changes, to me that's super, super impressive. So yeah, it's hard to find any arguments, but that would be one for Zaiwu.
That was Anders who did that quote, and like a rare moment of clarity for him.
Surprisingly enough,
He dropped one good line
of the year.
Otherwise, it's bear paws jokes, and it's whatever.
Well, I think we've kind of already crowned him, but 3, 2, 1, gentlemen, reveal your cards.
Whoa.
It is Simple across the board, and a well-deserved victory for him. Another opportunity to pick up yet another LAN trophy to round out the year at the World Finals. And just a stellar year from him, and I think you guys kind of put it perfectly. The fact that even before 2021, when this team is struggling, never any struggles for Simple.
And it's been like a fun conversation. Which one was better over the past few years with Zaiwu taking all those HLTV #1 spots the past 2 years?
Simple was robbed last year.
Yeah, he was. But this year also, there's no contest in this. It's not even close. Like Simple's taking this, and it's hands down.
Yeah. What's cool about Zaiwu is like he actually has been rifling for entire maps now, and he's pointed out that he actually never really wanted to offer the team. And on maps like Inferno, he doesn't pick it up. He even was able to
didn't really
take
touch
down
it on Nuke today.
Yeah, on Nuke versus G2 as well. Had an amazing map. He's out rifling Nico outside. That was really impressive. So Zaiwu kind of showing his depth in that sense. But of course, you're talking about like very small percentages between these.
One of the things I saw today, in the match as well, that was like a good contrast between the two, was like Simple on CT side of Dust 2 is like peeking up doors. He's getting aggressive on catwalk, taking angles towards mid. He's like being aggressive early on, trying to like find a pick and getting information. When it was Vitality on the CT side, Zaiwu was just playing like that support position at long, at car, going back between pit and going between the site. And it's like, that's fine, obviously, but like when you have an AWPer, there's the second best player in the world, #1 for the past 2 years, you want him to go find you some kills. You want him to go make some of these rounds a little bit easier, and I just didn't see him taking that initiative.
I think that's the one critique you can make of Zaiwu, because we saw that today. It's not necessarily that Zaiwu had a bad game today, but his team didn't play well, and Zaiwu is not the player that all of a sudden will take that on himself, and go change the tide and change the dynamic of the game, at least not in the same way Simple can do it, because we saw Simple for many, many years, playing in a disjointed Na'Vi where they had the potential to be the best in the world, but the team play was never there, the players was never up for it, yet Simple still performed at a very, very high level. So I agree, if you had to tell, one difference, one thing that is really pushing it towards Simple, it's the fact that if anyone in the world of Counter-Strike right now can change the dynamic of a game, that would be Simple. Picking up the AWP, picking up the Scout, the man can do it against everyone in the world.
Why do you hate France so much?
Every comment you make is just like a bus flying at somebody.
Any final thoughts closing this category out?
Well, not on the category, no. But I do have some final thoughts for later.
Well, we do need to close out the category.
I do have other thoughts if you'd like to hear.
I am thinking about other things,
Horses,
actually.
man.
I mean, this is just like a no-brainer, right? Best player of the world. Of course, he's going to be the best in his category, too.
We do have 2 former coaches on the desk, though, and I'm curious to which one of you would rather coach this team, and could you?
Yeah, go can have it.
No, I wouldn't coach this team.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's bring
They
up
don't
the
have an
team.
entry fragger, that's why.
Yeah, this.
No, you can do.
No, I think it's just like very well because what language would we speak?
English?
English, yeah.
Well, how they don't speak it?
Yeah,
They're the coach. They should speak Serbian.
that'd be spicy.
Yeah, I think it's obviously, you know, it's a very interesting dynamic. Would a team like this work? I think if they all spoke good enough English, yes, you can make a team like this work without a doubt. Yeah, because I think also, you have a trio of strong personalities with like Apex, Simple, and Nico, but there's other teams who already have that. So it's not even that you have too many of the same type of players, right, or anything along those lines. I think you could make it work role-wise as well.
This map would not drop a map in FPL, or this team. They would clean house. I mean, we all want to see Simple and Nico play together, but we'll get the next best thing with m0NESY, so.
I have to say, though, it does feel like with some of these, you know, like Entry and Lurker, I feel we need to expand our, you know, vocabulary. Like, right?
We need to name the roles something new at this
We need to
point.
define roles better because it's a you know, travesty that Bit didn't win something, right? Like the way he has been playing this year, obviously would be the Rookie of the Year, and also that you can't put Electronic in there, right? Yeah. Those were my thoughts.
Well, that was the
Those were
thoughts
the
you were.
thoughts.
That's all there is to say about that.
And now I'm done.
containing.
I have nothing left.
It's emptied your brain. I mean, we've got a grand final coming up, so I hope it's not.
I
too
have
empty
something
yet,
for
okay?
that. Something for that. Yeah. There's a couple of notes in there.
Just talking about maybe what we'd see positionally for these teams, for this team rather, with these players.
Like in the
it.
world ranking?
Oh
That
no,
would
I was
be-
talking more about maps, but I mean,
I think
we
they would
could,
be 9.
a solid
I think
9.
they'd be 9 in the world.
You put this team at 9.
I think just because of Simple and Nico, I'm like, they would. I think they could actually manage.
How
9.
long would it take to get to 9 is the question. Would it
It would
take a
take-
year, 6 months? Would it be right out of the gates?
It'd be 3 months, and we got to start making.
No, but
changes.
this is what you need to take into account. You're just removing the best players from the teams that are best right now. So who would beat them?
Oh, number 1. You're right. Yeah, that's true. There would be no competition.
Yeah,
right.
half an Navi's gone.
That's also the Carlos strategy.
Unless this is like a planning experiment.
It sounds like 2 years from now, this is just the G2 lineup.
Yeah. I'd like yeah.
Slowly buying
I would like
one
that.
by one, getting him in there.
I wonder how Apex would fare as an in-game leader in this position. Like, I don't know whether the frustrations would come back. I feel like there's a lot of voices in this team, and his might not be heard very well.
You have so much talent and game sense on that team. I feel like in-game leading wouldn't probably even be all that hard. You have enough people who can take control of a situation, who can take initiative. I think, you know, call something out of spawn, and one of those guys is going to give you something to work with.
You know it. Like when you have so many strong personalities on a team, sure thing, you know, it would be easy to think that they're just going to win the games without even trying. But what happens when you go into a period where, let's say a tournament where it's not working out, you know, where Simple is having an idea, and then Apex have an idea, and then all of a sudden Nico is also a very strong-minded guy. Teams like this will never work, you know, and they can maybe work on paper, but I strongly disagree in this sense, and that's also why I think the new Vitality lineup is going to be very interesting to follow, because when you have too many opinions on a team, and you can probably attest more to that, it can really disturb a lot of the confidence in the team, it can disturb a lot of the focus, and, you know, at some point you go to a point where you don't have that, you know, love for each other or trust in each other, and that's directly translated to the server.
I think this
okay,
team would
Matt?
absolutely work. I don't think this team would have any problems because, yes, they're strong-minded. They're strong-minded personalities, and they clash, but they clash with people who don't have the same will to win. And you look at Simple, you look at Nico, they're like, I think, you know, the same person in that sense. They don't care, like, what they think is, they just want to win. You can see Simple is like, this is the happiest.
But what happens when you don't win?
Because his team is winning.
What happens when you're not winning?
It's about like, how do you do it? Like, you just approach it and you work harder. Like, that's the problem. It's like you're not winning, and then a guy just sitting on his ass the whole day and not doing anything, and he's like losing you games. Of course, you're gonna run into problems. But if everyone's, you know, eventually you will make it work. If you put in, you know, the proper work, if you put quality work in, and have good players, you will make it work.
That's just wishful thinking to me.
Well, it's where Blade would come in, right? Because it's like, it's not, the disagreements aren't the problem. It's how you kind of approach and help kind of diffuse the disagreements, because disagreements are good. It gets you talking, it gets ideas flowing, it gets people actually having a conversation. And I think sometimes players get a little bit stuck on what's the right play versus like what's the wrong play, instead of like having a conversation about finding a play that both of them are comfortable with and executing together. It's not necessarily like this play can't happen because it is wrong. It is, can we make this work if we're in a situation where it has to?
A bad strat works if you do it fast.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We take too long
Before they figure it out.
Yeah, before they
Is
figure
that like
it
the
out.
art mentality or something?
That's a big thing, though, right? You lose timings when you start arguing, and that's where a lot of rounds get lost. And then that's the thing. Sometimes it's hard to say what's objective and what isn't in Counter-Strike, in that you could say one strat would have worked, but then you start theorying about it afterwards. But really, where you lost ground was in not agreeing right away when you needed to make that play happen.
That's the thing. A well-drilled team will always beat a team full of individuals, or in most cases. But I think the argument for this potential team is that there's so much individual skill, right? That even if you are well-drilled, even if you have the best synergy and the best team play, Nico will just still shoot you. You know?
Yeah. Well, okay. What map would this team be real kings on?
They all have a
Mirage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
they
gonna
all
say
put
Dust
Mirage.
too.
Simple CT
We're gonna avoid
side
some
AWP and
bands when we
echoing
talk about
connector,
this.
like, ooh,
That would be
that's
kind of
spicy.
dangerous.
That's spicy.
A Dust 2 from you, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, look, we.
Okay, let's put their positions on CT side. Nico and Connector.
Well, Simple's got an op everywhere.
Yeah, so he'll have an op everywhere. We'll
Yep.
just take him cat. Perfecto has B locked down. Inter's on ticket, maybe in this situation.
Well, the Inter's not on the team.
Oh, wait, no, that's who I picked.
Yeah, geez. There's
like,
a little
has
bit of
to
that
be Apex
narcissism
Living in
coming
your
out.
own brain.
Has to be Apex or Hobbit. Maybe Hobbit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Perfecto at
Dude,
A,
there's no
Hobbit at
easy
B,
sites.
Mirage.
Yeah.
Or Hobbit plays cat and Apex plays A anchor.
Okay.
Look, he can't stand still.
Yeah,
Can't do
that's
that. It has to be the other way around.
Yeah.
Dust 2, that was what you were bringing up.
Yeah, I think like
That'd be better.
Simple with the op, like obviously at mid and out towards long would be something really good. Obviously, what Perfecto over at the B bomb site, you'd put Nico can play wherever the hell he wants because he's amazing.
Yeah.
Throw Hobbit or Apex out at long A, you've got yourself a win.
I mean, are we looking at the next
Easy, yeah.
major champion for 2022? We might have it on our screens right
Do
now.
we have the money
Maybe.
for it?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
question
maybe.
is
You know
how much-
what?
That's
how
the
much they
question.
cost.
How
money.
much
This
would
is
this
the
team
investment.
cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be a very expensive team. Well, we have crowned our World Team of the Year here at the Blast World Finals. Maybe tweet us if you agree, disagree. Who would you be replacing
Pimp.
in this lineup? Yeah, tweet just Pimp. Only Pimp.
So
At
many.
Pimp CSGO.
So many. Please don't.
I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, though, and I'm very excited to be delving into the grand final very shortly as well. Obviously, you guys won't be joining us up on the desk for this. Thoughts coming into this one?
Oh, I'm just pumped. I kind of touched on it earlier. I like the end the year in the Na'Vi versus Gambit. I think that's. I mean, obviously Gambit wants to get back as well. The major was such a complete stomping in those semifinals, and that was supposed to be such a great game. Gambit's obviously going to want revenge for that match, and I think they're actually looking better here than they did at the major. So hopefully that delivers. But really, it just like cements a year that was the rise of all the CIS teams, and like this is how it feels like. This is how the year should end. And then on another note, just to keep rambling on, I actually liked watching like teams like Vitality and Liquid, who like we know are like the dead teams, the teams making changes and everything, because you saw them have some really cool games down the stretch, but then you saw both of them in their losses that eventually eliminated. You see like some of the issues start creeping in of why they are making
Yeah.
roster changes. So we got like cool last glimpses of them, and then you also see why these are coming in.
I think there's a lot of teams right now and a lot of players that kind of dislike the fact that they were so good, because that removes the excuse for the future as well, that if you're a dead team, you can't play proper Counter-Strike. Vitality have shown it, Liquid have shown it, so there's no excuse next year, you know, for a team knowing going into a summer period or a summer break or whatever, saying that we're doing roster changes, so we're not really going to perform at our best, or we need a couple of months to get gelled together. Like, you've seen that even a dead team that hasn't practiced for, 2 months, they've been going to the dentist all the time in Team Liquid, and still they go to this LAN event and play good Counter-Strike.
How many visits
Was
is
that your excuse?
That's a
at
lot.
school?
The gym?
That's the excuse. That's what they said. They had
Yeah?
to go to the dentist, so
To the
there's no
dentist.
time for practice.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Gotta take care of your teeth.
In Serbia, we say I have to take some medicine to my aunt.
Medicine to your aunt.
Yeah, that's usually the same thing when you want to get out of
Okay.
something. It's like, I can't, I have to do this.
Wow, culturally diverse up here on the desk.
Serbia has some
I'll tell you a
fantastic
couple of other ones. Yeah, I'll tell you a couple of the other
Oh,
ones in the
Serbia's got
green
some
room.
gems. It's beautiful. It's a
You ask
wonderful culture.
Yanko, can I get a flash for long? Oh, I got to take the medicine to my aunt.
Something like that, yeah.
But I think your point there is really valid going into next year as well, because I think that kind of was the epitome of Liquid, you know. It was just saying the communications were really rough, not really gelling together as a team. As soon as they have that light at the end of the tunnel, we don't have to play together anymore. Suddenly, everything works okay for them. Bit of a shame. Good to see them go out in that fashion, but bit of a shame they couldn't do it better earlier.
Wasn't it G2 who won a major? Some French team, who Envious, who won the major back in Cluj-Napoca in 14 or 15. They were also saying
Some
coming into the
French.
tournament, you know, or at least after that, had they not won the major, they would have been a dead team as well. They were already willing to go apart from each other, but all of a sudden they won the major and then they stayed together. So it's
Gambit
a proof that it can happen.
2017.
Gambit
Another one.
2017.
Cloud9.
He was
Cloud9.
buying tickets, you know, after group stage to go home because he was sure they were not going to make playoffs.
Yeah, it's also
That's
some
cool.
good closure too, because some of these roster moves are foregone conclusions, right? They're going to happen no matter what. So they ended the year really strong, then there might be some regrets if the next team doesn't start working well. But at least you got a little sour note to end on, unfortunately. A lot of good memories, but then the idea that it reinforces their decision. The fact that things are going to change and that's actually for the
I'm
better.
just quickly curious to you, Jason, as we're not going to see you here anymore. Like the new Vitality, do you think the new Vitality would let's imagine,
with the Danes,
with the Danes coming in, Sonic coming in as well, do you think they're going to be a better Vitality within the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months than the Vitality we've seen as of late?
I certainly think the potential is there. I think they can be. I mean, look, there's some real stumbling blocks with the language barrier and everything like that.
How high is that fence you're sitting on? That you're afraid to fall down?
No, I know. I'm just saying. I think. Okay, look. I think that the team's gonna be good. I'll put it that way.
That's it.
Is that a
You're
yes
not letting
or a
them
no?
get away with
Like
that.
we all know the team is gonna be good, Jason.
Fine. Yes.
Thank you. See, that wasn't too hard. And now I'll tweet to you 6 months from now when they're like 12th in the
I know.
world
That's what I'm trying to avoid. I know what you people are like behind the scenes.
I'm going to clip it, put it on Twitter.
Exactly.
Just before we close this out, I want to get your thoughts and predictions going into the grand final. Of course, we do have our prediction game on Twitter, but we don't know exactly who's going to be in that grand final.
I'm taking Gambit, and the reason is because I have full faith in Simple, but I don't see the same Navi that we saw at the Major. I don't see the same Navi that was like in super form a couple months ago. I didn't hear any doubts about Gambit, and they look like they're playing better than then. So I always pick the team that's trending up.
Okay. I'm taking Navi. I think in that previous series we did see them kind of hit that level. I think that game against Vitality, especially on Dust 2, was so suffocating, and I think that was like a Navi that we saw. And the conversation that Blade has kind of had is like, we're running out of energy. We had everything building up to the Major, we had the whole process, and it worked great. Now at the end of the year, we're kind of running on fumes. We're struggling to get to the end. It's one more game. Like it's easy to focus up. One more game, potentially one more trophy, one more $500,000 prize. Like everyone, wake up. Let's get after it.
And I mean, they also disposed of Vitality so quickly. They actually got legit time, to just chill out and prepare a little bit.
Yeah, literally. I mean, what, $500,000 added to, what are they on, like 3.2 or something
filthy.
collectively?
It's something disgusting, yeah.
Man, Bit must be buying some good Christmas presents for his family this year. Like that debut year, that's just absolutely nuts.
Yeah, Rookie of the Year. I mean, had there been a category for that would have been him. I'm kind of curious as well. Like we've seen some rookies come into Counter-Strike as of late who's been doing super well. Brokey was a good example, had to get into it, but Saivu in his rookie year turned out to be the best player in the world. Now Bit coming in and arguably a top 10, maybe even higher, in the world as a rifle. So there's no excuses for the rookie out there anymore. There's just, if you have the level, if you have the desire, and if you're good enough as a player, you can make it in your first year as a pro.
You'd be savage as a coach, Jacob.
I think you're selling the wrong dream here, actually. I think you're telling people that.
If you are not the best,
slow burns. Yeah, I mean, like,
you're trash.
Not
All I'm
everyone's a
saying is
prodigy.
it's possible. It's possible.
It is
Dream big.
Possible, yes.
What's the
you
phrase?
can win
Shoot
the
for the
lottery.
moon, and if not, you'll land in the stars. Is that a poster you have on your wall, Jacob?
Absolutely.
I can imagine that. Along with your live, laugh, love.
It's because of it's because of people like this that you have careers like Babski's. They air for the top, but then it all comes crashing down.
Okay, I think it's time
Vince
to
of the
wrap
year.
this one up. Yeah, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me
Anytime.
up on this desk for crowning our World Team of the Year. Thank you so much for joining us for the duration of the World Finals as well.